I had not planned to do this, but this morning I took a 6 o'clock flight from Florida to New Jersey. I have to preach here this weekend, and there was increased security at the airport, which was not a surprise. There was an increase before going through the baggage security, and then there was increased security to get on the plane. Normally, you show your boarding pass and you get on the plane. Today, you had to show your photo ID, you had to show your boarding pass, and then if you carried a backpack, you had to allow them to search your backpack. And the reason I was not surprised was because I knew very well that this was September 11th. I was the New Jersey Secretary of State on September 11th, 2001, and it was my responsibility to travel to New York by boat during the middle of the day to coordinate on New Jersey's behalf whatever support we were going to offer New York. The cell phones did not work, the power lines were cut, and so the only way for us to offer our support was for the state police to facilitate my journey from Jersey City Liberty State Park over to one police plaza in New York. I went past the World Trade Center. I saw the flames and the smoke. It was like midnight at midday. And so September 11th has always been emblazed on my mind, my heart, and my soul. It's a memory I'll never forget. I also gave the official speech to state employees in New Jersey in the War Memorial Building to help them understand what we were doing to protect them. We had special security in front of all of our state office buildings. So I was deeply involved in the September 11th response as a state official in New Jersey. And so I was not surprised. It's on my mind every year. In fact, ironically, many years since 2001, I've found myself in an airport traveling on September 11th. The most striking memory, however, about September 11th, 2001 was the fact that in response, there were no Democrats, there were no Republicans, there were no liberals, there were no conservatives, there was no rural versus urban, there was no rich versus poor. On September 12th, we were all Americans. We rose above our differences. We united hands and hearts. We prayed together. We sang together. I'll never forget the sight of members of Congress gathering on the steps of the United States Capitol singing together, God Bless America. Today is September the 11th, and on September 10th, our country experienced yet another tragedy, a tragedy that involved the assassination of a 31-year-old leader, a young man who subscribed to conservative principles, conservative values, and was literally the Pied Piper of young people who also share those conservative values. Unlike September 11th, 2001, on September 11, 2025, we are literally at each other's throats. We are blaming each other for the death of Charlie Kirk. We are calling each other names. We see Democrats and Republicans. We see black and white. We see conservatives and liberals who are expressing such disdain, not just for each other's views, but for each other as people, that it really it pains me to see that when we are attacked from the outside, we seem to be able to rise above our differences, but when we are experiencing something from the inside, we go to our respective corners and we essentially mobilize around our respective tribes. One great leader who himself was assassinated said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. We'll always be divided in terms of views. That's the human reality. Two people are just not going to agree on everything. In fact, the older I get, the more I disagree with things that I used to believe myself. But but moral leadership requires that In moments like these, we rise above our differences. We seek our common humanity and pray that we can sustain that unity even when the crisis is over. Not only was not only was Charlie Kirk assassinated yesterday, but we also had a school child killed in school yesterday. And until every life matters as much as other lives, until every death is as meaningful to the human family as every death, then we will be hypocrites in our outpouring of concern when one person is the victim of violence and experiences tragedy, and we ignore other victims at other times. As a black man, I have been raised in a culture that has witnessed political violence, racial violence, and it's included lynchings, it's included assassinations. Martin Luther King was killed at 39 years old. Medgar Evers was killed in his driveway at 37 years old. And so I've been raised around the people who have trained me to understand that with opposition and with enemies comes violence and comes tragedy. And so we have a natural inclination to empathize with any people, any group, any family that has experienced what the Kirk family is now experiencing. I remember when I was 24 years old, my own father died from medical malpractice, and my young mother was a widow at 44. My little sister was 8. My brother was 21. And so we've experienced our own understanding of pain. And so we certainly empathize with the Kirk family, pray for those children that'll grow up without their biological father. But having said that, as a nation of religious leaders, political leaders, educational leaders, business leaders, we've got to figure out a way to rekindle the kind of unity, the spirit of unity that we had on September 11th, 2001, to protect ourselves from incidents like 2025, the assassination on September 10th of Charlie Kirk, deepening the wounds and exacerbating the divide. So I pray that we will think seriously about not so much our political identity, our racial identity, our religious identity, but our human identity. We are Homo sapiens. We are the highest form of life on the planet. In fact, we are responsible for the other forms of life. So pray with me, pray with each other, and let's humble ourselves and offer forgiveness and grace at a time when we desperately need it. So God bless you, and thanks for listening.